Tonight, we focus on a message of resilience, unity, and national determination. President Bola Tinubu has declared that Nigeria will not surrender to fear. According to the president, terrorists, bandits, kidnappers, and violent extremists will not be allowed to define who we are as a people. He insists that violence is not our identity and that hatred does not represent Nigerians, regardless of faith, ethnicity, or community. But beyond the statements, what does it take for a nation under pressure to refuse fear? And what responsibility falls on all of us as citizens? This is Politics Tonight. Welcome and thank you very much for joining me. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. So the president's statement is coming at a time when many Nigerians continue to grapple with security challenges across different parts of the country. And in a related development and in response to growing public anxiety, the House of Representatives has summoned the service chiefs and National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, to explain the nation's security situation and ongoing efforts to tackle it. But beyond the briefing, what answers are Nigerians expecting and what should accountability look like in the fight against insecurity? That's our focus tonight. My guest is former Nigerian Ambassador to Burundi, Elijah Onyegwa. Ambassador, thanks a lot for joining me this evening.
Thank you so very much, Olajumoke.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure being in the studio once again.
Right. So every attack by terrorists, every attack by bandits or kidnappers is designed to achieve one thing, which is fear. And that's what the president has spoken about. But how does the country push back against fear? If fear is the main weapon of terrorists, how exactly does a country defeat it and restore public confidence?
Well, the truth of the matter remains that insecurity is a big issue for us as a country at this point in time. You can look back and ask, did it start within this administration or how long has this lasted for? Facts before us actually clearly makes it very understandable that this issue has been building. Close to 2013, 2014, it was majorly terrorism in the northeastern part of the country. But we have also seen this challenge metamorphose into all kinds of things. In the northwest right now, we have kidnapping and banditry. Even in the southwest, as a matter of fact, nearly every part of the country right now is witnessing, one form of insecurity challenge or the other. That the worrisome part is that despite the huge investments that are also, and despite very, very many military operations that are going on around the length and breadth of the country, this issue still persists. We still have school children being kidnapped. We still have, all kinds of banditry and terrorism operations still going on in the country. And this is indeed a huge concern. And for the president, he made it very, very clear that the country is not about, this issue, this kind of crime that is taking place, and that there's no way we will surrender, to what they want us to look like. And that, for me, is strong leadership, because the statement has to be made out there and very, very clearly, unequivocally, that this is not who we are. And this is very unlikely to continue. We cannot surrender. We cannot, just become fearful overnight simply on the account of the fact that, some people have decided to put us under that kind of pressure. But what do we need to do? Because what it basically means is that this is not a time to play politics. This is not a time to offer all manner of criticisms. This is a time for all hands to be on deck. This is a time for everyone to continue to do whatever they need to do, because there are obvious issues. And what are those obvious issues? I'm not a security personnel, but I know that our security system is being stretched, is being overstretched. Right. How many policemen do we have in the country that are policing over 220 million people? A lot of creativity needs to come in trying to rejig our national security architecture. There's been a lot of, conversation around state policing. There has also been a lot of conversation, around having forest guards. Time and time again, we've seen the Amoteku structure being established in the southwest. We've seen some of another kind of, I think, some kind of security, organization set up in the southeast, state by state. So all of these All of these initiatives are basically trying to help strengthen community policing, trying to strengthen the security architecture of every state. But clearly, what it means is that a lot more work needs to be done.
Absolutely.
The leaders of the country, from the presidency to the governors to the National Assembly, a lot of work needs to be done. We need to find a way to rejig our security apparatus and security architecture of the country, yes.
All right, Ambassador, I mean, don't get scared. Yes. We won't get too technical with this conversation, but it's a bit worrisome, very worrisome actually, because, you know, there's a tendency to blame government alone for insecurity. Also, I do not think ordinary Nigerians should take the blame for that. Nigerians just want to sleep with their eyes closed without looking over their shadows or uncertainty about whether they would wake up the next day. But security experts would say citizens are the first line of defense, and it has become important to ask ourselves if any security architecture can succeed without active citizen participation. Are we ordinary Nigerians doing enough to support security efforts? What responsibilities do ordinary citizens have beyond criticizing government?
Well, I think that time has come for us to have this conversation, and that is to say that every Nigerian must be part of security conversation. Why? The idea should be, if you see something, say something. You know, in a sane society, I remember traveling to, I think it was Netherlands at some point, and I went to visit someone that is very close to me. And a couple of days while I was there, you know, the neighbor called police that there's a strange guy that is here, that they don't know what he's here for. Named the flat, and, you know, and what happened eventually was that the police came. I had to introduce myself. I had to say that this is who I am. And eventually, after the investigation, they left because they found out I was harmless. So the question is that every security challenge we have is emanating from somewhere. There must be a group of people that are planning. There must be, you know, someone that is wanting to do one thing or the other. And these people don't live in, you know, they are not very far from us. All of these, all of these actors, you know, that are involved in all of these things are people that, you know, they are obviously one of us. So I believe that the responsibility of citizens should also be to get involved in providing critical information to government and to security agencies so that they can act before it becomes too late. You know, during the challenge of ESN in the Southeast, one of the observations we saw at that time was that people generally surrendered their rights and you know, and privileges to these guys that are non-state actors. You know, so basically they didn't have a way of protecting themselves that, you know, so they just gave up and said, you know what, you know, whatever goes, goes. And that cannot be sustainable. It can't be a strategy that we will use to fight, because we must be able to provide the security agencies the needed information for them to be able to do what they need to do. However, we also have cases where citizens are also saying that they've gone ahead to provide this information and then again, nothing happened. So clearly, a lot of work needs to be done. But my point is that whether you're an individual, whether you are a group of individuals, whether as a community, everyone have got the responsibility of helping in the fight of insecurity, against insecurity in the country. If you go to several villages now, you find out that they are beginning to set up, you know, some kind of mini vigilante, you know, groups to be able to help. You know, in my state, Anambra State, for example, we have an Udogachi, which is also another security outfit that is also funded by government, and you know, it was formed by government, and of course under close supervision of the Nigerian police. So I expect this to happen at every level. Every community must stand up and then ensure that they are playing active role, because it can't be left for government alone. 300 or 400, 300,000 policemen, you know, policing over 220 million people. Obviously, the numbers are not adding up at all. So what I believe that needs to happen at this point in time is that everyone needs to come together. Everyone needs to come to the table. Everyone needs to bring out whatever it is, experience, information that they have, so that all of these things will be brought to bear, you know, towards, you know, checkmating insecurity in the country as a whole. Let's
stay on that, Ambassador, because, you know, these terrorists and bandits do not operate in a vacuum. These guys do not operate in isolation. They need financiers, they need informants, they need suppliers and protectors, and they depend on logistics, intelligence supplies, and local support. And the question we must ask ourselves is, when do we begin to have consequences? What consequences should there be for individuals who aid these criminal groups? And also, are we paying enough attention to the enablers behind terrorism?
You see, when I looked at 2026 budget, one of the things I found out was that defense was a huge part. I think the largest portion of the budget of this year is to be spent on security and defense of the country. What that basically means is that at this point in time, government is prioritizing security, over even economic growth as it were, because the people must be secure before you start to talk about how you can grow. But having said that, I think that, take for example what happened in Oyo State. I saw yesterday in your news, where, the building where the minister's relative was held hostage was being demolished. And I believe that it doesn't end there. It shouldn't even end there. There should be consequences, because if people know, if perpetrators of this dastard act know that there are consequences that will follow whatever action that they are doing, I believe it will be able to help regulate some of these things, because this thing doesn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, it's people, these are Nigerians. And when you hear stories, whether if you meet a kidnapped victim or people that have... I do
apologize. Yes. Let me comment there. What difficult conversations is the country still avoiding about terrorism financing and local complicity? Are we honest enough as a nation about the fact that some of these actors may be respected community members, businessmen that we appreciate, politicians, traditional authorities, or even family members who provide intelligence, logistics, shelter, or financial support for these guys?
Well, it is I don't know whether it's a big elephant in the room, but what I see is that I think that we need to do a lot more. Both the government and everybody needs to do a lot more, because you can argue, like I said, I'm not an expert, but I also know that there are even external financing that comes in, from outside the shores of the country to be able to aid in security. I mean, when you also look at the sophisticated equipment, so, guns and all of this that they have, you're asking yourself, come on, where did these guys get, how did they have access to all of this? And whether you are a highly placed person, I believe that it is also time to name and shame those that we have been able to identify as a nation, the people that are involved in these acts. I mean, some time ago in Anambra State, there was a man who claimed to be a trader, but, quite a highly respected personality that was involved. I think his building was used for this kind of activities and all of that. The state of government named the person, brought out the picture, did everything that was, and then, of course, commenced the prosecution. So this shouldn't be a one-off. This should be happening on a day-to-day basis. Buildings where these people are being held something has to happen, and the people must also face these, face the consequences of the actions, because this has become if you like, call it an industry. It's become an industry, and actually a booming industry at that, because if you have to take someone on hostage and then you get paid 10 million or 20 million naira, as the case may be, based on your demand and based on your negotiations, and how will they stop? Something has to happen. And I understand that even in trying to fight this, you can say, okay, they are located in this place, and then you want to be able to go and set that place on fire or bomb the place. There could also be some unintended consequences. But then again, technology is now part of our security system. A lot more work needs to be done by those responsible to be sure that these kind of actors or people that are playing direct or indirect role, be them politicians, be them highly placed in the society, must be named and shamed. The people of this country will want to know who are the perpetrators of this action. Is it because of electoral processes? Is it because of whatever reason, that there are? But then again, the responsibility of this relies on government, because I understand that everybody knows that the primary responsibility of government is the protection of life and property. And I believe that a lot more has to happen. More pressure needs to be put on these actors so that we can find a way to cage them, because this is indeed getting out of hand that is very worrisome for citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And
until we confront that reality, can we truly win this fight, Ambassador? But quickly, what concerns you most about the Oyo school abduction? Is it a kidnapping itself, or this conflicting narratives that have emerged around it? Can a country effectively fight insecurity when there is confusion about the fact? And also, what damage does misinformation do to public confidence in government institutions?
You know, the Oyo State is quite surprising because I can also find out that, everyone saw that the location where they held the minister's sister and the kids are quite within the city. So it's not like they even took them to the bush. And so you can imagine how wicked we are as a people. Yet we sit back and we point our hands to some other person. It's the government that is not doing this. It's the chief that is not doing this. It's this other person that is not doing that. But just imagine the process. And I understand that as the conversation went around, it's actually someone that they know. So you find out that for this to, for these operations to happen, there must be people that are giving out information to people that are also involved in this. So it seems to be a web, of a lot of actors coming together to be able to carry out this heinous crime. And for me, that's very, very worrisome. And this is not a one-off. This is happening nearly on a daily basis. And my sense is that a lot, if you look at even the school children matter, it also happened in Borno State, and it also happened. So you're asking yourself, what kind of human beings are we really? So you go and take a child of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then you keep them in the bush, keep them wherever, and they are crying. It doesn't even, so it's not just even fighting insecurity. It's also a moral issue. It's also, I mean, we are all humans. You have blood flowing in your veins. So how can the desire to collect money from ransom be much more important than the humanity in you? So for me, it calls for a lot of reflection and introspection for us as a nation, because I honestly do not see the direction where we're headed or what we intend to achieve by this. You hear a lot of people that are involved in this or people that have experiences tell you their story. Someone said to me the other day that, they were telling them that budgets are being padded, that government is doing this and government is doing that. But that cannot be the reason why you take laws into your hands and start kidnapping people and holding them to ransom. Sometimes they even pay that ransom and then the people end up dying at the end of the day. So for me, it's very, very concerning. It's very, very concerning because this is not who we are, just like the president said. This is a new dimension. And I believe that the earlier everyone stands up to understand that this is not just government alone. It's not, the easiest thing to do is to criticize government. And that's why even in our politics, as we head into the elections, conversation must also be, these are the issues the country have. We've got the security problems, we've got employment problems, we've got healthcare issues, we've got education issues, we've got constitutional reform issues. What are we offering the people? Across the plethora of positions that people are going to be vying for, difficult conversations and proper conversations needs to be had. In terms of policy alternatives, what would you do differently? So as against saying, oh, this is happening, this is happening. We have seen this grow, so it's not like this is the first time. It's just that it is getting worse. And I believe that, both conventional and unconventional approaches must be employed at this particular point in time to be able to fight this. So that people, citizens of the country, deserve to go and sleep with their eyes closed. They don't deserve to be harassed. They don't deserve to live in fear, which is basically what is happening in some places within the country. And I believe that, once everyone comes to this understanding, then clearly information will be key. Everyone will have the responsibility of, taking record, trying to understand what is happening around them, because that's where it starts. Where you live, who are you living with? Who is your neighbor? Who is he? What does he do? What kind of businesses are they involved in? So all of this information will be very important to security agencies, so that by the time you see something that is a bit not normal, something awkward, you'll be able to report to say, okay, this is what is going on here, so that they can start early to prevent, because I believe that security is not expected to just be reactionary. You should also be proactive in trying to find a way to prevent them before they even happen, before these things happen. So if we're able to find a system where everyone is working together to be able to prevent this, I think we'll be better off as a nation and as a people. All
right then, Ambassador, let me ask you this question I asked my guest last night. I'm asking you again because, after I saw that video of the school principal saying, don't play politics with our lives, again, the question is, what does that statement tell us about how security crises are often politicized in Nigeria? Why are politicians sometimes more interested in, winning narratives than solving security problems? And how can security issues be insulated from partisan battles?
Well, it's a fine line, for Politicians, and for those that are, interested in running for offices, particularly the top job in the country, security is always a big issue. It's always, at the top of the table. And of course, people would always want to use that to score a political point, But for me, it's beyond even politics. And that's why, in Nigeria, it's pretty much very difficult, to find ideological politicians. What we have here is just strong individuals that intend to carry out and, whatever they want to say to be able to get the sympathy of the people, to be able to lure them to vote for them. But I believe that the right thing that should be done is that security is not a political issue at all. It is an issue of fundamental human rights, which everyone must come together to resolve, because there's so much a police can do. If you do not give the police information, what can they work with?
Are politicians contributing enough to national security beyond criticism and counter-criticism? At what point should national security rise above party politics? I mean, we must get to a point where security must be treated as a non-partisan issue. It's a matter we must discuss because, yesterday, Peter Obi says, describe the recruitment of forest guards as evidence of poor leadership. Also, there's a tweet from Rabi Kwakwan, so his words now. What we lack today is not resources, but the requisite political will and sincerity to confront this menace head-on. Are these fair criticisms, Ambassador? Can today's insecurity, be separated from the decisions made by some of our political leaders over the past 2 decades, including former governors, including former ministers and presidents?
Okay, here is the thing, Jimoke. There's a part of politics in that statement, but the truth of the matter is that there's also an acknowledgement of the fact that this problem didn't start today. And that said, it's important to understand that even his position is also saying that a lot of people also need to come together because this system has been broken for a very, very long time, and the people haven't acknowledged it well enough. But beyond even that is the fact that whenever an issue happens that has to do with insecurity, it calls for concern because even if you politicize it, it can also happen to someone that is close to you tomorrow. You just don't know what's going on. I mean, this is coming closer and closer. Could you ever imagine that someone can be kidnapped in Lagos? Could you ever imagine that Abuja, as it is, this Federal Capital Territory, could also have this kind of challenges, even in the middle of FCT, so of Abuja? So these issues for me are not issues that should even be a political conversation. It should actually be an issue that everyone must come to the table to provide solution. When we were having 2023 elections, pre-2023 elections, it was conversation around, okay, will subsidy continue or will subsidy stop? Every top presidential aspirant agreed that subsidy needs to go. They can differ on the modalities for which, whether you do A before you do B or you do B before you do C. Those ones are now a matter of implementation. But something that was very clear before everyone is that subsidy has to go. So for me, it wasn't about even ideology or whether, you are in party A or party B. This is the kind of conversation we must also have with respect to security. Yes, government have got responsibility, but yes, every one of us must also be involved. And I believe that this security conversation must be taken above partisan politics because it will have even if another person is elected as a president, if we don't address it, it will continue to get worse. And I hear over the last 20 years, yes, this is what it is. And the truth of the matter remains that if we make it just a criticism issue, we will continue to banter ourselves back and forth, but we end up not solving the problem. Right, every government, every year's budget in the last 10 years have had a significant portion go into security and defense of the country.
And that's why the House of Reps has summoned the security chiefs to account for funds released to security agencies in the last 6 months. But the question is, should the debate be about how much money has been spent or about, what measurable security outcomes have been achieved? What should lawmakers be demanding beyond expenditure reports, Ambassador?
Well, expenditure report is important, but for me, it doesn't really matter. Because if they spent every money that has been given to them in security and they haven't achieved anything, it means that something is wrong somewhere. It's not about just how much money is being spent. It's about the efficiency of a system. It's about the outcome. Because for me, the only way to measure that security is getting better is when we have less people kidnapped. It's when we have less reports. The outcome is always, a better way or better metric for measuring security. It's not just even the amount of money that you can spend, because you can actually spend a lot more money. If you are still unable to achieve the result, then what exactly have we done? So I hear the House of Representatives is important, it's part of their work. Oversight is necessary, because sometimes you also want to know how much has been spent. But as against the public display and as against going through, I think a lot has to do with sitting down and understand how can we perform better. Okay. What does the security do? They need laws to be amended for them. Are there bills or motions that they want to be passed so that the effectiveness or efficiency for this, of the system can become better? For me, that should be the objective at the end of the day.
And talking about bills and motions,
yes.
And talking about bills and motions, the Senate's move to fast-track state police this week has, marks a key shift in Nigeria's security debates. But as the proposal advances, the real test will be in detailed structure, funding, and safeguards against police abuse. And we'll be here to continue to monitor how this develops, especially the legislative framework and what checks and balances are put in place. Thank you so much for speaking with me tonight. Elijah Oyagba is former Nigerian ambassador to Burundi. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Please have a great evening.
Thank you very much. God bless you and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you. God bless you too. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you that views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Meanwhile, you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at 12:30 a.m. and get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumo KW using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com